Hello again everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another speed build video in The Sims 4. I hope you're all having the most amazing day ever so far and thank you so much for joining me here today. If you are seeing this on Christmas Eve, then the happiest of holidays to all of you. If you are seeing this just after Christmas or over the Christmas period, I really hope you are having the best time ever. And today I wanted to share a little, I say little, it's not really little, it's an English inspired countryside cottage with 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. We've got like a downstairs office / sort of snug area, and then also like an external outhouse as well. But I was browsing on Pinterest and I found a few reference images that are sort of mashed together to create this one sort of final product. So I don't actually have a reference image to show you, but I'm really happy with the final result. It's been a long time since I've actually built something that's been English or British inspired. And considering I do live in the UK, I've lived in the UK all my life, I am British myself, I do see a lot of these cottages sort of in my own country, and the fact that I don't build them more in The Sims 4 is, I don't know, not necessarily odd, but I'd definitely like to try and start doing it a little bit more. And all I kept thinking was, some people may say that this cottage kind of looks like the cottage from The Holiday. I suppose it kind of does, but I wasn't necessarily going for the holiday style cottage. I was going for more of like just a countryside, rural family cottage that's perhaps a little bit, not run down, but it's a little bit dated, you know, things need upgrading, but ultimately it's just a super cozy vibe, especially around the Christmas season. So on the inside and the interior of this house, we do have a lot of Christmas decorations so that your Sims and yourself can obviously enjoy this over the festive period. I'm really happy with how this turned out, so you'll have to let me know what you think in the comments down below. But this is not going to be our final video of the year. No, it's not. I do have at least one more Sims 2 Let's Play coming out before the end of the year, and then perhaps another build that's sort of New Year inspired. So we've got potentially at least one more video, if not 2, before the year is up. And then I'd also really like to film an office tour, because there's been a few people that have sort of said that they've expressed interest, in me showing my office and doing a little bit of a walkthrough, maybe a Q&A as well, and just sort of like a wrap up of the year and where I'm currently at. So I do have a few things to film over the next week or 2, so I am very excited. But if there are any builds in particular that you'd like to see, if there are any videos in particular that you'd like me to share, then please do let me know. But yeah, one of my most popular ones is I would love an office tour, because I do share my office. You know, sometimes I'll do it on X, and sometimes I'll do it on my Sims Instagram, but I have, if you're not aware, I have recently started up a TikTok and another Instagram page where it's more like just for the gaming content creation side rather than just focused on The Sims. So yeah, that's kind of exciting. So yeah, I do get a few comments every now and again sort of saying, yeah, can you do a tour of your office? So if that is something that you'd like to see in the new year, please let me know, because I would love to give it a bit of a clean, a bit of a declutter, because I currently have a Christmas tree up in my office. I currently have like a desk where I work from home, because I do have a working from home job now, which is super exciting. I got a promotion at work earlier on in the year, so my office is a little bit, I wouldn't say it's chaotic, but it's not necessarily where I would like it to be. So I think it's going to take me perhaps a little bit of time to just get it to where I'd like it to be before I maybe film it. But again, if it's something that you'd be interested to see, then please let me know. Anyway, back to the build. Enough about me, enough about my office. Back to the build. So the exterior shape came together really quickly. We do make some slight amendments. I think most of them I keep on camera, if not all of them, but there are some that I do off camera, I believe. I've spoken about this so many times on the channel, but I feel like when I'm building a house in The Sims, I kind of have to look at it and think, oh, do I like this house? Because if I don't like it, I'm not going to keep working on it, you know? I've done it before where I've done the entire exterior of a house and I've started to move on to the inside, and then I've stopped, looked at the exterior of the house again, and I've gone, oh, no, this is not what I had in my mind when I envisioned this. this house, obviously, it passed the RachelPedd weirdness test because obviously I am uploading it and I am sharing it. I will not upload or share anything that I am not proud of or that I think I could do better. Obviously, you can always do things better, but I think with this house, it definitely looked how I wanted it to, both on the exterior and on the interior as well. So I am pretty happy with it. I was quite surprised at how long it took me to build it though, considering I think when you look at it you think, oh, this is just like a sort of an average sized house. Why have we got potentially 44-minute video? First of all, I just think it's really nice to catch up around the festive season with you all, so I did want to make the video slightly longer. But secondly, I got a little bit stumped because primarily, whilst I live in the UK and I am actually surrounded by houses that look like this, where I live, there are plenty of houses that look like this. I drive past them quite frequently, so I do see them, but it really took my mind a minute to sort of get into, I'm not making a typical American suburban style family house. I am going for more of that British sort of theme. So that did take me a little while to try and get into my head. And the exterior, whilst that was kind of difficult, somewhat difficult, when I got onto the interior, that's when it really stumped me. And that is when I had to actually go onto Pinterest and use reference images for, and I've spoken about this before, for the interior of the house. I don't typically pull up reference images for the interior of a house. I'll just sort of freestyle it and do what I think looks good. But for this, I really wanted to have that more British kind of feel to it. So I didn't want to not do it justice. I don't think it's 100% accurate because I just don't think it's going to be. There's only certain items that we have in The Sims 4 that I think would fit what I would consider a classic sort of English cottage. Obviously, I was going to say country living. Obviously, cottage living came in really handy for this build because we are building, of course, in Henford-On-Bagley, which is the world that came with cottage living. But also some of the items that I used on the interior of the house, they came in handy too. But then what I did decide to do was decided to change up some of the roofing here because it just wasn't looking quite right, in my opinion. And I'm really happy with the changes that I did make because I think it just added that sort of extra level, I guess, for what I was looking for when I initially had this idea in my mind. I've had this title for a video and the idea for this build for quite some time. I'd say, I think towards the end of summer, I just thought, oh, Christmas in the countryside. I want to build a cottage in the countryside in The Sims that's just super Christmassy, it's surrounded by snow, it's really cozy, it's got a nice family vibe. And I'm really happy that I actually managed to execute this before Christmas time is over. And the fact that it's coming out on Christmas Eve as well is really exciting. I can't remember, I think I spoke about this around Halloween as well, because I did release a video on Halloween this year. I can't remember if last year I managed to release a video on Christmas Eve. I'm not entirely sure, but obviously I do my Sorry, let me start again. Whoop. I do my festive builds every year. I do my Halloween builds and autumnal builds every year. But I can never remember if I managed to actually upload on Halloween and then on Christmas Eve. There's not going to be a video tomorrow, with it being Christmas Day, of course. But I'm not really sure when our next episode of The Sims 2 Let's Play is going to be released, but it's likely going to be before the year is up, as I was explaining at the beginning. And then I had this idea for either an apartment or some sort of house, maybe for like a single parent with their kids, and it's called like New Year, New Me or something like that, or New Year, Fresh Start. I've had that on my notes for a while on the app on my phone, so I'd really like to make that happen around the new year as well. So there's plenty of things happening, which is really exciting. So plenty of things to look forward to, I guess, going into 2026, which is, I cannot believe another year is over. I'm sure I'm not alone when I say this, but I cannot believe another year is over. I feel like I say this every year when I sit down and film a voiceover at the back end of the year, and I always say the years are just going by so quickly, and it's it's kind of unnerving, especially at the moment. I don't know if anyone else is feeling this way or if it's just a me thing, but I don't know, it's just frightening how quickly everything is going by. But I don't want to make this voiceover, obviously, about the fact that, you know, another year has ended and I can't believe it, etc., etc. I want to try and keep this as upbeat as possible, but, you know, I'm definitely going to be going into 2026 a different person than I was this time last year, and I think that's true for a lot of people. So that's enough of that. But yeah, then I go through this stage on the outside where I'm like, there's something about this little porch on the front that's not looking quite right. I couldn't remember or work out if it was the door or the window or the placement of the little letterbox and then the sign and the light. I could not work it out. So you'll see me here just trying to kind of find a different door. I mean, hindsight's a wonderful thing. I definitely could have cut this out of the footage because this is just like quite painful to watch, to be honest. But I say this quite frequently, and I just try and keep as much of the footage in as possible because it's more real that way. You know, this was a genuine struggle that I had. I was like, okay, I kind of like this door from Growing Together, but I was like, do I like it in the blue, the brown, the red, you know, the yellow? Like, what colour do I want this door to be? Do I want it in white? I could not get this door to look somewhat good. I don't know what it was. I think once I start fixating on stuff is when it sort of all goes downhill, really, which is just something in my brain. Apparently I fixate on stuff and then I'm like, oh, this is really, really bad. I feel like I should just bulldoze it. Obviously, I did not bulldoze this lot because I'm sharing it, but I was close on a couple of occasions. I was like, oh no, it's just not working. But anyway, then we start working on the back of the build because obviously, me being me, I work on the front, situate that, and then I'll work on the back. I did decide to add this little bump out at the back here, which actually came in really handy for the kitchen space. I was quite happy that I did decide to do that, and also it offers a little bit more dimension and shape at the back as well, rather than it just being completely flat. Because if you consider the front of the house, we do have the bay window, we've got the little porch area as well, and I wanted it to feel quite balanced when you're looking at it from the side. So yes, very happy with that decision. And there's also this little outhouse here. I didn't do an external garage. I think a cottage like this could definitely have had one. It's just that I thought it was a little bit more sort of realistic and leaned into the more English countryside cottage vibe if I made like a little outhouse, basically, where your Sims can they can plant some herbs and flowers and fruits. There's also a bike in there. There's like a walking pad or a running pad and just things like that. So you can definitely turn that into whatever you would like. It could be another bedroom if you wanted to, and turn this into a 5-bedroom house. That could definitely be an option. It could be an external office space. I think that might be kind of fun. It could be whatever you want it to be. It could be like more of a hobby room with a chess table and a darts board. It could be whatever you want it to be. So I don't know how everyone usually downloads houses from the gallery, whether do you do them fully furnished, or do you tend to do them unfurnished and then you furnish them yourselves? I think there's probably a little bit of a mixture of both players there. But I do love decorating houses in The Sims. I went on a little bit of a building kick a while ago where I was just building the exterior of like houses and just buildings in general and not really wanting to delve more into the decorating, which was a little bit unnerving for me because I do typically enjoy decorating the interior of my Sims houses. I think that's really where the storytelling can start coming in, and I can start explaining a little bit more about the family dynamic and who I imagined would live in my builds. But yeah, I went through a bit of a kick a while ago and I was like, I'm just not really feeling decorating the interior of buildings, and who knows if that's going to happen again. But usually 99.99999% of the time my houses are fully furnished, ready for you and your Sims to move in. Anyway, then we go into the cottage living menu here, and we just start pulling out some additional clutter pieces just to make the house feel a little bit more homey, using the tool mod, of course, as well, just to increase the size of items ever so slightly. Since I downloaded the tool mod, I have been absolutely obsessed with like resizing items, rotating items. It is such a handy mod to have, and the fact that I was scared of it for so long is hilarious because now I use it all the time. But anyway, now we move on to the interior of the house. This is where we start to lay out the floor plan. So we do have 4 bedrooms on the upper floor, along with a big family bathroom. And then on the ground floor, we have the hallway, the bathroom downstairs, the kitchen dining room, the living room, and then of course the like snug area where I put like a little fireplace in it, a couple of chairs and a desk as well, just in case any of these Sims need to do their homework or work from home or whatever. So this is the living room. This room took me the longest time to decorate. Honestly, when I'm looking back on the footage now, this room is easily, I'm looking now, it's easily the longest one. And I truly believe that is because I did not know how to decorate a little cozy cottage living room. So as I was explaining just at the beginning of the video, or near the beginning of the video, I did actually go onto Pinterest and Google Images, and I had a bunch of images on my other monitor while I was decorating this so that I could sort of pull inspiration from them as and when I needed to. I did find that the longer that I decorated this room, the easier things came to me. I suppose that's like with anything. I tried to use these curtains from the Adventure Awaits pack, and for some reason, like I think it's because of the swatch of the sofa that I decided to go for in this darker green, I just could not get them to work, unfortunately, because for me they do give off a real cottage vibe, but I do end up using these blinds from the cottage living pack instead, and I think everything paired together does make for quite a homey cottage vibe, especially with the wooden flooring and then the exposed brick as well. That to me just screams countryside cottage. So I do love how this actually turned out in the end, even though it took me a little while there to work this out, but it's fine. Sometimes things take a little bit of time and that's completely fine. But I do love the fact that we use this sofa from the base game. I think this is one of the unlockable items, but because I do play with, I think it's better build by, I'm pretty sure this by default is unlocked in my menu, so it tends to be one that I do gravitate towards more often than not because it is so versatile. And then of course we do use some throw pillows as well. I tried to find the throw pillows that we just recently got in a base game update, I think, and I'm saying that with a little bit of hesitation because I'm not 100% convinced that we got throw pillows, even though I feel like we did. Does that make sense to anybody? I'm so sorry if it doesn't, and I'm so sorry if I'm rambling. It's Christmas Eve. I've just logged off work as well for until the 27th, I believe, which is something that's like completely alien to me. The reason I'm trying to explain why the voiceover seems a little bit more rambly than usual, even though I think my voiceovers are generally quite rambly. But yeah, I've just logged off. So I do work remotely now. I've just logged off. We just had our like team Christmas meeting, which was really fun. And then now I don't have to worry about anything for 2 days. Whereas previously in my other job, I would be having to commute to work around this time of year and worry about, you know, the traffic and when I'm getting to work and how busy the shop's going to be and stuff like that. So I feel like my brain's trying to disengage from work whilst also obviously wanting to get this video out for you all on Christmas Eve as well. So I'm so sorry. I'm just trying to put a little bit of context to it. But anyway, love the colours that we went for in here. I feel like we went for quite earthy tones. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a super colourful living room, but that's okay because I didn't really want it to be. I did debate on putting a couple of bookshelves behind this sofa because that is something that I've been doing quite recently and I just think it looks really nice. But what I did decide to do with this particular room is I decided to put the bookcases just on either side of the Christmas tree, which I thought worked a little bit better. Of course, some artwork above the sofa here, that's from Cottage Living. That's just like, look at that. It looks so pretty and I really like how that looks. We do swap out the tree for this one from, I think, the holiday. I'm going to use the pack term quite loosely here because I'm not entirely sure how I came upon this pack. I don't know whether it was like a free downloadable pack around the holiday time many years ago, or whether it was it cost next to nothing. I'm not entirely sure. So I do use a few items from that pack because I think when I started working on this living room, because I was so focused on trying to make it look like a cozy cottage, I'd forgotten that, oh, it's a Christmas cottage, so we need to put Christmas things in this room, Rachel. Like, that's what we need to do. So I do feel like I needed to just remind myself of that as I was decorating this room. Oh my goodness. If you've made it this far into the voiceover, drop me a comment down below. Let's think of a word. Like, or a term. I tell you what, okay. So if you've gotten this far into the voiceover, which is miraculous, by the way, because this is so rambly, comment below and just put Christmas elves, no context. Just put Christmas elves, and then I'll know the people that have made it this far into the video, because you're the real ones. Honestly, any view for me is so like amazing, but the fact that you've made it this far into it, you have my entire heart and mind, honestly. Thank you so much. But anyway, then we start to add a few more items here because I wanted to create a kind of more, let's use the word cramped cottage. From what I've seen online, and it completely depends, of course, on the people that live in these cottages and their personal preferences, but when I've been in one of these cottages in real life, whether it's been on like a mini vacation or something like that, they feel cramped, and that's not necessarily because the rooms are small, it's because there's just so much stuff in the rooms, and I think we really get to see that on the upper floor with the bedrooms. I really tried my hardest to sort of get that across and portray that sort of cluttered feel upstairs, and I was quite happy with how it all turned out. But yeah, in the living room, I wanted, obviously in the main spaces, the living room, the kitchen, all of this stuff, I wanted that to come across, and I kept having to remind myself, as I've just said, yes, okay, that's fine, but it's Christmas, so we need to make sure we're adding Christmas items in here, Rachel. Like, don't forget about the Christmas items. And I love the fact that we've used so much exposed brick in this build as well. And if you just heard my throat gargle, no, you absolutely did not, although I apologize. And then I do decide to try and put some of those Christmas cards just above the fireplace, but I couldn't get them to work, and it's because of the staircase. I was getting so annoyed, and then I realised off camera, I was like, oh, it's because the staircase is still there. So I do end up decorating the fireplace off camera, which you will see in the screenshots at the end. You'll be like, oh, I don't recall seeing you put any of that on top of there, Rachel. No, you won't have done, because I didn't film it. I was getting so aggravated. I couldn't work out why, and then I finally realised. I was like, oh, it's because the staircase is there. I couldn't do our usual little trick of sort of like alt moving things onto the fireplace. So yep, I decorate that off camera and then just add a few finishing touches here. And as I was explaining with the bookcases as well, I add this rug from Life and Death underneath the tree too. I just thought that added a little extra layer of detail and sort of realism. Love how that looks. And then I think that's this room pretty much done. Oh yeah, and then from these reference images, I kept seeing like these little, they're not laundry baskets, but like just these random baskets in some of these homes, and I thought we do have something like that, so let me just pop that in here. I do end up adding as well a little pet bed, because I think that this family have a little dog or a cat that they just love with all their heart, mind, body and soul, and I thought that was the sweetest idea. And then we move on to the entrance. Now I wanted this again to sort of convey that countryside feel, so we put some wellies near the door. We used a few items from Horse Ranch in this room and throughout the build too, to be completely honest. We of course clutter this up a little bit with some trinkets, a handbag and some mail, some shoes near the door. I wanted it to just feel like a very busy, cozy, homey family cottage. I'm hoping I got there with it, because I do genuinely like this, and I would love, as I was saying, to explore more British/English architecture, in The Sims, because as I was saying at the beginning, I live in the UK and I can count on one hand the amount of like British builds or themed builds I've done in The Sims, which is like a little bit weird to me, because I live in the UK. I am surrounded by houses and properties that look like this. But that's the entryway done, and then we work on the downstairs bathroom. There's a toilet, a shower and a sink in here, but then I did make sure to add a shower bath combination on the upper floor as well, because I did add a nursery to this build, because I figured that this family have a newborn, so I know that that's really important when you're bathing the newborns/infants/toddlers. You need a bath. So I do ensure that I add a bath upstairs, and it took me a little while to find a sink that I really liked, because I was like, this is a little bit unusual for me. Typically my bathrooms look pretty much the same, I would say, in my builds, but with this one I couldn't do like my normal like bathroom. You know, I definitely had to think outside the box. So that's pretty much the ground floor done. And I say that very loosely because we do still have the kitchen, dining, the little snug, and then of course the little outhouse to do as well. So this is a sizable home. Honestly, I was quite surprised when I moved on to the interior and realized how much space I actually had. I was envisioning a much smaller house, but I think for gameplay this is really, really good. You know, if you've got, so we can have what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Sims, up to 5 Sims, and then a pet, like a dog or a cat in here. So that's really exciting. You could definitely put a bunk bed as well in a couple of the bedrooms if you wanted to. So you could have like a full family house going on in this little British cottage, which I think is kind of a nice thought. But again, it just depends on the family dynamic and who you imagine would be living here. But yeah, this is the kitchen. I love how this turned out. I think it could be the heart of the home, although I do feel like it's perhaps more the living room space, but this is where the parents would prepare the Christmas dinner and, you know, the kids come down and enjoy breakfast together, and they'd have a cup of hot chocolate and just reminisce about Christmases gone by. And I really tried to imagine the family that was going to be in this little cottage, and I think it turned out really nicely, or at least I think it did. Although I'm now looking, have I not left a free counter? Have I really done that? Can you Sims prepare on the island counter though? Because I put a kettle just on the left hand side of the fridge, just because I thought, well, you know, us Brits love a good kettle, we love a good coffee or tea, so I'll put a kettle in here. But that does mean that there's no free countertops, which is a complete oversight on my part, so I do apologise. If your Sims, and I'm assuming they can't because I do clutter these up as well, if they can't prepare the meals, I would definitely advise either deleting the kettle or the microwave. It's up to you which one you want to delete, and I do apologise for that oversight. It's literally just something that I've noticed in this footage looking back. I'm so sorry. Oh dear, that's not like me at all. I really try so hard to leave at least one counter space free so that your Sims can actually prepare the meals. I don't know if they can perch themselves somewhere on one of these island counters. Oh dear. Just know I am truly, truly sorry. But yeah, just adding a few more Christmas trinkets here. We've got like a little teapot and set. I did pull out some Christmas crackers as well because I wanted to put some Christmas crackers on this dining table. We do end up using the one from Horse Ranch because I thought that fit the best. I'm not really sure. I think realistically it could probably only fit 4 Sims on here, but we do have the bar stools as well. So I didn't really think that was too big of a deal. But what I didn't want to do is I didn't want to move the 2 chairs that are near the window because then that would just look silly. So I'd much rather that they were there, but not necessarily accessible, if that makes sense. So that's what I do there. And then I do end up adding a standing lamp, which acts for me as a pointer to where I want to alt place items on the dining room table. I don't know why it's taken me so long to figure out that I can do that, but it's a trick that definitely works. So I would highly recommend doing that if you haven't tried something like that already. It's not a new idea. I'm sure loads of people do it, but it's new for me. We had this like little sort of china cabinet from Cottage Living as well, just here. And then I realized that the little pet needs a little food bowl. So I add this and then this like little lead sort of shelf from Cats and Dogs, as well as like a pile of food. I did envision a dog, but obviously if there's a cat, then you can change the swatches sort of as and how you need to. And then we move on to what I would consider more of like a snug room. So fun fact, my husband and I actually have a snug in our house, but there are no windows, which is why my husband calls it the snug. It's basically like a chill out area. We've got the dogs' beds because they are crate trained for when we're not home. We've got like a mini fridge. We've got a TV on the wall. There's a fireplace. There's a comfy sofa. There's all sorts going on in there, and it's just a really fun sort of relaxation room if we don't want to mess up the living room. So that's kind of what I was taking inspiration from when I was thinking about this room. The only difference here is that I do add a computer with a desk to this room because I like to add as many things as possible for Sims to do in houses so that your Sims aren't bored when they move into one of my homes, because there's nothing worse than a bored Sim looking at you as if to go, okay, I've run out of things to do now, what am I supposed to do? So I do end up adding this little computer desk. I added an older style computer just because I'm not convinced that this family are too up to date on all of their tech, and I'm not meaning that in a horrible way at all. I almost admire people who aren't and just appreciate what they have and they're not after like the latest gadget or whatever. But yeah, I wanted to just try and stick true to that sort of family cottage sort of feel, especially British cottage. So the PC looks a little bit older, but obviously if it's not your thing, then you can definitely swap it out for perhaps a laptop, a tablet, or like a more sort of modern looking computer would be kind of nice. But yeah, there's not much else going on in here really. And then I also do add a toy box in here, just just for you, again, for your kids' Sims to just have something to do whilst they're on this ground floor. Because I haven't actually explained the family dynamic for this house, have I? Okay, so we've got two parents. We've got their teenage, I would say, daughter. We've then got a child sim, and then we have an infant, and then of course the family pet. So that's who I envision living here. Again, make any changes that you feel necessary to sort of fit the mold of any family that you can see living here, but that's the family dynamic that I made this house for. So that's the main area of the house done on the ground floor at least, and then we move on to the little outhouse area. So this is where your Sims can do a little bit of gardening. They can have a bit of a chill out, they can do a bit of a workout if they want to, because as I explained at the beginning, we do have a treadmill in here. We've also got like a woodworking station as well, so if your Sims are into the woodworking skill, then that's definitely something that they can do. There's a little space heater in here too, because I can imagine that this little outhouse gets extremely cold, especially in the winter, so I do add that there. There's like an old rundown rug as well that was probably used in the house, and they've sort of repurposed it for this particular room, which I thought was kind of nice. And then just some sort of trinkety bits to go on the wall, just to make sure it doesn't look too bland and boring. Although looking back, I think the exterior stone that we used is from the Castle Estate kit, and I think it looks fantastic on the exterior of this cottage, but I think once you start moving on to the interior, it looks a little bit too castle-y, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if it's just me being hard on myself. But yeah, I'm not sure if here it's giving more castle than cottage. But anyway, if you want to change it out, then please feel free. But then we do move on to the upper floor. So we do decorate the family bathroom first. So I was tinkering around with a few different options for this bathroom. I knew I wanted a double sink because the room was, I think, bigger than I had considered it was going to be in a really good way. I love a big family bathroom in a Sims build, especially when the bathroom downstairs isn't quite as big. It's definitely big enough to have a shower, which is fantastic. But as I was saying, you do need a bath if you've got especially younger children in the house, which of course we do. And then we just add some like little trinkety bits, just some towels. We use this mirror from Seasons, which I really like. And just really anything that you would think is in a bathroom is in this bathroom. I always get really awkward when I'm filming bathrooms because I never know what to say about them. Is that weird? But yeah, that's the bathroom done, thankfully. Then we'll move on to the main bedroom. So this is where the parents would be. There's no ensuite, but I think that's pretty typical, I'm going to be honest, for especially an older style cottage, unless you've done major renovations to the house. I think that pretty much this floor plan's quite realistic. That's the word I was looking for. And this room actually turned out quite Christmassy, to be honest. I always say that I try not to bring the Christmas vibes too much into the bedrooms because I'm just not sure how realistic that is. I mean, we've got a Christmas tree in our bedroom, but that's the extent of it. There's nothing else Christmassy in our bedroom. So this particular family, they've got like a Christmassy duvet set just because it's red, and then the rug as well gives off like more of a Christmassy vibe. And then the only other thing that I really add in here is a wreath just on the window as well, which I thought added just again like this festive feel. I think these parents love Christmas. They love spending time with their loved ones around Christmas time, and yeah, it's just a really nice room, which I never say about my main bedrooms, like ever. And then I did realise, I was like, oh yeah, in a British cottage you would typically find radiators. I don't live in a cottage, but I do live in the UK. All the rooms in our house have radiators, including the hallways. So when I looked at this big bare wall here, which always terrifies me, it doesn't matter what room it is, it could be a kitchen, a living room, a bedroom, a bathroom, bare walls scare me, especially when they're, and I know it's not a big wall, I know this, but especially when it looks this big, I always struggle. I'm like, what artwork do we put on here? Do we put a clock? Do we divvy up the space and add another wardrobe? Like, what do we do? So I was like, let's add a radiator. But then what I didn't do on camera anyway is I did not add any radiators to the other rooms, but off camera before uploading I did add the radiators to all the other rooms just for a little bit of consistency, I guess. Again, that little bit more realism with it being a British cottage. And then it took me a while to try and work out what I wanted on these walls. I just had a little bit of a flap, obviously, as you can tell from the footage, but again, I kept everything in because this is what happens when, you know, I feel like I haven't built in a while, but that's really not true, I don't think. Has it been a couple of weeks since I've built before this? I feel like it's been a couple of weeks, which for me seems like the longest time, honestly. And then you come back into it and you feel almost a bit rusty. So it does take me a little while to kind of get back into the groove of things. And I knew I wanted to add a fireplace in here. That was pretty much all I knew. Everything else sort of came more organically. I wanted a little bit of clutter on the bedside tables as well, because obviously this dresser is quite cluttered. I think the dresser's from For Rent. I'm not entirely sure if it really fits the vibe, but it fits the same colour as the wood that we've used in the rest of the room, so that was good enough for me. So that's the main bedroom done, and then we do work on the first children's bedroom. So this sim I envisioned to be a child, not necessarily a super young child, but a child nonetheless. And so I knew I wanted to use this bed from Horse Ranch because I loved the checkered pattern on the duvet. I just thought that fit with the vibe so well. And I think this is when I was like, oh, these bedrooms are going to be cramped. Again, just for that little bit of realism with British cottages feeling, and this isn't a bad thing, by the way, when I say that British cottages feel cramped, they feel cozy, they feel loved, they feel lived in, they feel homey. I honestly would love to live in an older style British cottage. And when I was younger, I was adamant. I was like, nope, I want to live in a brand new house. I don't want anyone else to have lived there. And the older I've got, the more I've come to realize that I'm like, nope, I think my dream is to actually live in more of like a typical style British cottage like this with a bit of land, because I'd love to have miniature horses. I'm just talking about my dreams right now, but that's been something that's been on my mind for a really long time, and I feel like I unlocked something when I was doing this build, and I was like, oh, this is what I want. This is the house that I want, you know. Like if I showed this to my husband now, he'd be like, oh my god, that's my dream house. You know, we're both pretty much on the same page when it comes to where we want to live eventually, even though the house that we're in now, we've already got far too many rooms for us both. It's funny, but yeah, I wouldn't say it's our forever home, you know. Does that make sense? Does anyone else feel that way about their house? And I love my house, I absolutely adore my house, but I don't think that this is our forever home, because as I said, I want like a little bit of land, because I'd love to have miniature horses one day. That has been a dream of mine for as long as I can remember. So I'd love to make that happen one day. But anyway, I'm completely rambling about things that nobody cares about throughout this entire room. But there's still a little bit more to go, because I do end up cluttering up this little dresser here, which I thought was so cute. I was like, oh, I'm gonna just put a lot of toys and clutter on top of here and use my new little lamp trick. It's been a completely saving grace, has that, by the way, for anyone who's curious. So prepare for me to go even more clutter mad, is all I'm going to say. Anyway, that's that bedroom done, and then we move on to the nursery. So as I was explaining, about 10-15 minutes ago, I did imagine that these parents have just welcomed a new addition to the family, and they do have their own little nursery here, which I love. It's so cute. And the exposed brick, I don't know, it was doing something to my brain, you know. When I was building this, I was like, I am literally in a British cottage right now, which was just really nice. So I went for a lot of earthy tones in here, a lot of greens, browns, I think there's pops of yellow in here, and yeah, it didn't really take me that long to put it together, because it is a very small room. Because obviously, as you can see, it is the same size as the upstairs bathroom, but I figured I figured as this sim grows, you can add a toddler bed in here, you can add a single bed in here, you can put bunk beds in here if you wanted to, if they ended up having another baby. But they do have an older sibling who is a teenager, so by the time they're grown up, the teenager may have moved out. They might not have done, but they might be at university, and then this sim can move into the child sim's bedroom, and then they can just switch rooms. Because when my sister and I were growing up, like, we swapped rooms quite a lot, if I remember correctly, like for no reason whatsoever other than we just wanted a change. Anyway, this is the last room that we work on. This is the teen room. I love this bed from Life and Death. I have been itching to use this for the longest time. I don't know if I've used it in this particular swatch before, but it fits so well with what I had imagined for this sim and also for this room. I added quite a few items from high school years as well, just to sort of get across the differences in the child's ages, you know, in the children's sims ages. This is definitely the eldest. I toyed around with a couple of clutter ideas and sort of ended up removing this, but I love the overall vibe of this room. I do end up as well, I've already done it, but I changed the colour of the lamp to like a soft pink / magenta colour, which I just think adds to the entire vibe. I'm obsessed. I really like this room. You'll have to let me know in the comments down below which is your favourite room in this house as well. And this is going to be another test for people who have made it to the end of the video. So you let me know which is your favourite room in this house, and I will know that you have made it to the very end of this video, and for that I am extremely thankful. But yes, let me know what your favourite room is. A lot of clutter going on in here as well. There's a few posters going on in here. There's some LED lights. I did struggle for a little while with what to put just on the right hand side of this bed, or the left hand side of the bed, I suppose, is depending on how you're looking at it. And I did land on, I can't remember which pack it's from, but like these little shelves, because I thought this sim was maybe like a little bit musical and a little bit into music, and then like the team flag, maybe they're super into supporting the local football team or the university football team or whatever. But that is pretty much it for this build, I think, other than just some other like clutter pieces going on the wall. So if you would like to download this build, it is available from the gallery right now. My origin ID is RachelPedd. Tray files, as always, are linked down in the description box just below. You can get them from SimFileShare. But thank you so much everyone for joining me here today. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I'm wishing you a safe and healthy Christmas, and I'll speak to you before New Year, but I'm also wishing you a happy New Year as well. Thank you again for being here. I really appreciate it. You all take care, and I will see you all again very, very soon. Bye.